Indeed, and so the beauty of this kind of a lock-in is that combined with the Wukong, there's ways to burn through some of the key disengage tools from DFM safely with that Fate Sealed. So gonna hope that he can navigate these fights, because Yone, as well as having access to backline, he's also a very vulnerable champion if he doesn't use his skills correctly. So Jet, all eyes are on you to make sure that, especially once mid-game hits and once actual team fights start, that you can navigate through these fights properly, because the amount of pure damage coming out from especially 2-item Victor, the Senna, and the Kale on top of that, especially after level 11, is going to be very scary to think about as a melee carry.
And I love the drafts that we have got here. Really feels like they epitomize the way that both of these teams want to play, as we are loading onto our Rift for the final game of day 1 of the LJL Summer Split. The defending champions, DFM, taking on the challengers of Sengoku.
And considering our predictions, I feel like we have split goals coming into our final game of the day, because I am very eager for Sengoku to pick up the meta as much as possible. And combined with this specific style of drafting, I think they were very blessed to be given red side to have that opportunity to give counterpick towards Jet, because this is how they played in Spring Split. This is very a defined play where Jet pulled a lot of bans specifically in second rotation from stuff like the LeBlanc and the Ari, which he was very focused on getting within that second rotation, and had to pull out stuff like this instead. Some of these less meta picks that he felt like he could specifically target the lane and synergize with his comp.
And they are picks that rely on your hands. And Jed has got some pretty damn good hands. He's
got fingers. Yeah, I've heard he's got fingers and a thumb. That's all facts coming out.
Confirmed Sengoku's mid laner has hands. That's very good. But then sort of on the other side here for DFM, I'm seeing a lot of scaling picks in the Keystone Rune choices as well. We've got the first strike taken for Yaharong, which not too surprised to see on the Victor, and actually on this Karma as well.
So I don't know about the first strike on the Karma. I feel like the first strike on the Victor might actually be a little bit greedy. A lot of Victors can default into the first strike when something like the Aerie can give actually a lot more space within lane to bully some of these melee matchups. It seems like they're very focused on hitting this mid game and being able to spike super hard on that golden Karma that first strike allows you once you hit your first item, as they're playing very aggressively in the spot side, and this is really that presence of the double melee match, double range matchup, combined with Senna and Karma both having fantastic level 1s.
And this sort of playstyle is something that Harp really brought to DFM in spring. It's this aggressive style this laning. It's being up and in your face, and obviously he's a guy that can play sort of multiple styles of support, but when he's in lane throwing out these mantra keys on Karma, I feel like that's when he's happiest.
Yeah, I think his Karma play from last split was a real highlight for us. But looking at his play set from last split, he's played 11 unique champions. Harp has, and to be fair, and a lot of the members from DFM, as Yaharong's going to get traded onto the mid lane here, a lot of the members from DFM have pretty wide pools, as Yaharong's chunked very low there. And this is the issue with going into this first strike, is it can actually make you a little bit vulnerable in lane. If you can't build up that HP advantage early on, suddenly Jet's more eager to look for these trades like this.
Yeah, that gold in your pocket isn't particularly useful until you spend it. Fortunately though, for the DFM mid laner, once is going to be spotted out, so you can play a little bit safer around a potential gank in the mid lane. No, just going for that scuttle. I'm going to be heading back towards his top side.
And look at this top lane. Paz being actually quite smart here. So he's going to pull the wave just a little bit and get a ward in that top side. And that's not to scout out if that camp is clear, but also to scout out if Steel is going to be returning to that top side after his reset as well. You'll see reset should be coming in very shortly. And that's going to give a lot of information if he does get picked up heading straight towards that Gromp again, because then they're going to know his generalized pathing for the next 2 minutes and hopefully be able to play around that appropriately.
Because Viego is one of these champions who feels like a little bit of a halfway house between a farming jungler and a ganking jungler. That Spectrum Ore can provide a lot of pick CC, but he's also a champion that scales actually pretty effectively with items. So spotting out where he's going to be keeps your lanes a little bit safer, and maybe means that you can go for some aggressive plays of your own onto the DFM jungler.
That's the big thing, is that so long as they know that Steel is on top side, it gives Honey and NT a lot more space in this lane to go, okay, we can actually maybe force a fight here because we know that Steel isn't hanging in the back lines.
But as it stands, they can't really force anything, as Honey's, well, he's already been forced back. Guardian prot there, and we're seeing a 14 CS lead. That's basically 2 waves ahead for Harp here on the Karma already.
And something really cool actually is that it looks like Utapon is going for Fasting Senna, so that's in combination with Heart playing into this more AP variant build in the Karma. Be interested to see whether that's a Leandris or a Ludens as they're looking for the fight here.
Alcove Gaming from NT as he pops himself behind at Utapon. Summoner spells still available for the DFM bot lane, but they are taking their time in using them. Just going to be the flash burnt by Utapon there, and Jet, no level 6. This would be a risky dive.
And Jet is giving up a whole wave in mid-side for this as well. So they were very eager to try and find something, but it looks like Utapon's going to get away with this for free. And yeah, as mentioned, Utapon going into this Fasting Senna, that's going to put a lot more emphasis on him to get on map and pair up with his team. I think there's been some conversation over which AD carry wants to, you know, when you're doing this Fasting Senna, who wants to be on the center, who wants to be on map and playing that more supportive role within the early game until you hit that 80, normally what you used to do before was you get 80 stacks and then you transition into farming.
Yeah. Not sure if that's going to be the case. The thing with like Senna is it feels like every other patch, fundamentally the way that you're meant to play her changes. As still realizes that he can't take the Drake as once is in the area. Jet still applying pressure in the mid lane. But something that we didn't really have time to touch on in the pregame was the changes that Sengoku have actually made, bringing in Vital out of the LCK challenge as a particularly strong AD carry when they've already got Honey on the roster.
Yeah, I'm surprised to see if that's more of a nurturing talent kind of thing, or if genuinely time is going to be split out between these two players. We have yet to see. I'm excited for it. I like it when we have this diversity in AD carry pools. We saw this a lot within Season 6 and Season 7 within mid lane, where, I mean, T1 were the biggest ones, right? Where they flex between two players on completely different pools and champions. I want to see if maybe this is something Sengoku going to be looking towards too, because Honey very locked, well, maybe not locked in, but Honey very eager to play the Jinx first of all, and the Aphelios last season, which was pretty much pick or ban. Yeah,
very much the sort of easy tune out of that duo. I remember he loved to play stuff like the Azir, like these sort of like longer range late game scaling control mages, and Faker was the guy playing a lot more of the aggressive early game picks.
We've returned to neutral now, which is cool because I get to talk about vision. So you can see it's pretty scattered at the moment, but red side has taken a bit of a nice grasp within top side. This is something you want to see defaulted onto Kel, especially within the first 6 levels. But the bigger thing is it gives access for ganks like this.
As going forward there with the Arctic Assault, but doesn't quite find the knock-up. Stun connecting through onto Ebby, who uses the Divine Judgment. Cyclone going to be as well, but they don't have enough damage to take out the Kayle.
But the big thing though is that it doesn't matter if they don't find the kill there. I would have really loved to have seen them keep the wave, slow pushing into red side. Instead they set up this slow push because Ebby's TP is gone, as well as his mana has been heavily restricted now. Completely run out of mana, which means that if Paz is able to play around this pressure correctly, he should be able to choke Ebby out of a lot of CS coming into this. As he has to flash away from that combo. Very scary position to be in.
Yeah, and you're already losing on the bot lane, getting waves continually shoved into you, and missing that summoner spell isn't going to help. No kills going down as of yet in the early game, but definitely feels like it's been DFM who have had the lion's share of the pressure everywhere apart from this mid lane.
Yeah, they managed to build themselves up a 700 gold lead through entirely their own laning phase. There's a big flank from Steel.
Jet able to ult over the wall. Doesn't really have many places to go. Just jumping into the wolf camp and gonna go for a bit of a
he's going for a stroll.
bit of a Teetles around the rift. Shouldn't be taken out. I mean, just burning the ultimate from that gank when you were that far extended up, it has to feel like a little bit of a dub, but has there not going to be ganked by Steel, instead opting to go towards this Rift Herald.
Yeah, I guess they know Jet's off the map. This is going to be a big facilitator for some of these fights, combined with both of those ultimates being burnt in topside. Steel's super happy to go, okay, well, there's no raw skirmishing power coming up from this comp anymore. I can look for this Herald freely.
And as we just look at that scoreboard briefly, seeing, yes, pretty much even across the board. Honey has caught up to half in that bot side as Jet trying very aggressively onto Yaharong. This is kind of what you can do on the Yone, as we are seeing a little bit of an all-in, actually a fair chunk of damage onto the Jinx, who's forced to flash away. No real follow-up from DFM, but getting 2 summoners off of that AD carry is going to feel amazing.
Yeah, especially considering Steel is now level 7, hasn't had access to use that Heartstopper yet, but is on map now, and especially after clearing through his top side. He should be heading towards his bot side any moment, but it looks like instead he's going to have to play catch up on the top wave. This gives away so much information from DFM. This is actually a really big loss, and maybe that ego pick from the KO actually not working out too great for them so far, as you can see him starting to bleed now finally within this lane.
Super Mega Death Rocket just being a bit rude onto U2. I mean, Ebby's even on CS, and a Kale who's even on CS is always going to be terrifying, because that means that she hasn't really been pressured at the point that she is weakest in the game. So I would imagine that we're going to start to see a bit of a differential actually emerge in the later levels in Ebby's favor. But for the time being, still fairly low action. And I have to ask, which composition do we feel like this favors? Because I'm seeing a Jinx and a Yone on one side who do have a lot of scaling and a lot of damage, but pretty much 5 scaling champs for DFM.
I mean, my favorite thing to do with scaling comps is ask who has the tanks, because I feel like that actually ends up contributing a lot to how you can stance for these fights. And hey, look at that. They have a Sejuani on top side for Sengoku, so towards that, one's kind of caught out.
Is going to go back. Double knock up with a Cyclone is still using the Heartbreaker and going forward himself, but gets thrown into the air. Not quite 35 minutes for that first blood, and we're going to get a second as Once claims that one. Good stuff from Sengoku.
Yeah, they're playing very patiently there. Once kind of, I think, knew that he had members rotating.
Paz turning around, Ebby! Divine Judgment, but it's not going to buy you enough time. Flashes over the wall! God, Ebby, that was close.
That was very dangerous from him, as just trying to find a trade in the mid lane. No. Okay. A set of events has just occurred. It's now
it's not done.
It's not done.
Oh, that's a beautiful dodge away from the tongue lash. The zap still connects though. Flashes back over the wall. Action starting to happen.
Yeah, and that ignite for the flash there, really not playing in for the benefit of top side. And we get to see the patience here from Once. He plays through, especially his clone, very, very smart here, duking the occasional skill shot and avoiding specifically this gravity well. So important to set up this fight here. Now, even though a lot of the skill shots and fighting tools from Sengoku miss, it's the numbers that matter. Yeah. And combined with this finale of a buffer here from Jet to play perfect, he times that Q perfectly to avoid the majority of CC from Senna's W. Gets to pick up 2 kills there. Very big.
And where was Harp during that fight? He was farming in bot lane.
Good for him.
Someone should take down this this tower.
Well, the big thing is though, is that because he was remaining within bot side, and whilst they did end up giving 2 kills over, they immediately get 2 because of the Herald pilot through this bot side, through those plates being taken, and take that first turret there. And it looks like this is going to be another exchange for them. They got that first turret goal going straight into Karma's build, and it does look like we see a AP build coming out. The Leandries has been picked up, which is pretty credible considering he's playing against 2 bruisers and a tank.
But definitely a bit more unusual. I'm all for it. And Harp, obviously being the Karma master, knows what he is doing. I like that we've seen these trades though. It feels like neither of these teams has really been forced to contest stuff, but we did see that beneficial fight for Sengoku. DFM then could some of the Herald in bot lane take the tower, but they have to reset, so Sengoku gets the Drakes. It's slightly interactive League of Legends, but I do want to see these teams go a bit more hell for leather.
Yeah, and I think we're going to be waiting for that once Mythics get purchased, because those big spikes for specifically the Yone as well as his Victor in the mid lane, we're seeing double Leandries actually come out from this comp, so this is something I'm not so much of a fan of. That Leandry does not stack, so you're going to be missing out on a bit of potential damage there. And you mentioned already that the Karma, this Leandry build, maybe a little bit off meta. Now, a lot of people have been having the conversation of Karma being very easily, even with the farming Karma, can opt into the support items. The AP curve is very similar, and in time you wouldn't be hitting that miss synergy. But clearly they want as much damage as possible against, you can argue, a very damage heavy comp from Sengoku. So trades and trades, I guess.
Trades, and Ebby being shoved in the top lane. Did spot out Once, who was attempting a lane gank, but now top side of Sengoku is going to start roaming towards the mid lane. Steel is caught out here, knocked into the air by the Abyssal Dive, and here comes the Wukong. Sejuani's here as well. Harp caught out with a Glacial Prison, and the Super Mega Death Rocket from Honey secures the kill.
And this is something that comes off of actually a benefit from Sengoku that is kind of unforeseen. DFM unlocking that turret in the bot side means that Jet has free space when this wave is slow pushing into his bot wave. He has 30 seconds to play with here, and this gives him the timer to rotate into mid lane and play through his team before that wave crashes in bot side. It's the small things like that that you can account for that really make these kinds of plays successful. And now, even through their goal deficit, they're finding small gains like that.
And this is why we were so excited about this matchup, because Sengoku are one of those teams that can stand up to DFM, that can contest them, that could put themselves in beneficial positions versus one of the most winningest teams in League of Legends history. 15 minutes on the clock. Small tower plate gold and small gold advantage for DFM, but the lion's share of the pressure has been going for Sengoku. Stun secured by Paz and can Arctic Assault away.
Yeah, and as these side lane turrets, and especially the fighting around mid becomes more centered, we're going to see Yaharong and Ebby kind of rotate into different matchups that probably greater benefit them. And Yaharong specifically going to probably end up against Paz so that Ebby can stay in that safety, well, I say safety in quotation marks, the safety lane that would be Yone with Jet on the bot side.
Recall going to be interrupted. No mythic yet for the Yone. That is a massive spike, likely going towards the Immortal Shield Bow. Could provide you so much sustain and staying power in a lot of these fights. And when you are up against a high damage composition like DFM's, I think that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, especially with durability patch now, you get a little bit more value out of that shield as well, although I think it got nerfed, so maybe that's probably not true. Nonetheless, loving shields, love defensive capabilities, especially with such a damage fronted comp as well. You want to, as you mentioned, you want to last long. As we see DFM continually rotate into this mid lane and this vision fight happen back and forth, I think we should project our minds to the next Drake, because Cloud Soul on the map, combine that with both sides having a Drake apiece, and you mentioned already DFM by and large having the scaling opportunities for their team, even if you take into the fact that Sengoku have a tank, they have this Sejuani available. There's really an emphasis on Sengoku to get as much vision around this Drake now and look for this soul if they can, even with it being one of the lesser souls, one of the lesser prioritized souls, because that can really set up some of these win conditions, because they are playing almost solely through their key ultimates like the Glacial Prison, like the Face Sealed.
Yeah, and whilst the movement speed that you do get from the Cloud Soul doesn't seem immediately powerful, I feel like movement speed is one of those really undervalued stats, where if you could just get to a fight a little bit sooner, if you could just dodge that one skill shot that would have CC'd you and taken you out, you actually end up finding a lot more winning fights than you'd otherwise expect.
Yeah, I still have flashbacks to Aurelion Soul meta when he would lead mid lane at level 2 and go rotate bot side. It was movement speed is mad.
Pretty OP. What was it? Who he against RNG, was it? MSI 2016 or something.
Oh my god, yes. The flashbacks. The only Aurelion Soul player in pro play.
He was so good at that pick. Really was.
He rotated into support, didn't he? Oh, yeah, no, I shouldn't be talking.
He's been doing really well. Utspon not having fun though. Divine Judgment and Flash use a lot of resources to keep the AD carry alive.
God, it's hard to start talking about general conversation and he's just like, yeah, okay, let's start fighting now. I'll throw a what's it called? Umbral Voyage?
Oh, the what the Tongue Kench dash?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know. The down and up.
I've caught you up. Down and up, we'll call it that. Now, big thing is that DFM seem to have gone for an exchange of objectives here. They've gone towards this Herald, and this gives the space for Sengoku to look for this Drake. And this is, I think, to the benefit of DFM. We talked about already Sengoku wanting this soul, but with this more early game, mid game focused composition, we'd really want to see them contesting Steel.
Oh, you can't be standing there, mate. Thrown back into the team, flashes away, goes over the wall, somehow stays alive.
They try to CC chain in, but it's not enough. And in return for that, though, Paz still managed to pick up a top lane turret on the bot lane turret on the bot side. So through that pick, through almost a really good CC combination, still managed to get out with his life.
Okay, I'm getting worried though, and I think the Jet should probably be worried as well. No ultimate
TP
available on the Yone, but TP is going to come through from Paz. A lot of CC available from that Sejuani, and obviously 2 melee champs. Stack up the passive so quick. Steel is gone. Yaharong's knocked into the skies. The rocket comes through from Honey, and he's just one auto away. The railgun keeps the victory. Honey is forward, but can't quite find the kill. Ebby pops himself over the wall, but maybe has overextended his harp. Just dodges away from the knockout once. On the other side of the fighters, there goes the Kale. Somehow, only one person dies.
Oh, and what just catalyzing into just a single pick is absolutely crazy, because it seemed like Sengoku had by and large, the control over that fight. They had their members rotating first. They were always playing on the aggression there, but nonetheless, they get a single kill. And Paz now getting run down by Hart. They might actually find a kill here.
Yeah, potentially the Leandri's burn is ticking. Utapon going under the tower. Swanee just tanky enough. Ooh.
Yeah, wow, durability patch benefiting both teams, I guess, as finally now Sengoku has to play back, and we get to see this fight come out. And two things I want to keep your eyes on here as we go through this fight is look at Yaharong's ulti and how Jet uses his E to avoid a lot of the CC combo from here. So Yaharong drops the ulti early here, completely flubbing out on Jet. We combine that with Jet, look at this E, so clean. He gets to dodge the only CC that would really matter there, and then the rest of Sengoku are already moving up topside. This fantastic ulti from the Jinx, really sealing the deal. Well, we think so anyway, before the shielding came in.
Yeah, and Honey flashing aggressively there, but Yaharong just going out of vision, so auto attack not coming through. Once looking for a flank on the side, and ultimately the fact that no one else went down is kind of crazy, given how many cooldowns were burnt and invested into that fight, but it's still DFM with a big fat 0 on the scoreboard at 20 minutes into the game. That's not something that we see very often.
Yeah, and through these small kills that Sengoku found, they've actually managed to find themselves in a small gold lead as well. Remember, they were in deficit around that 12-minute mark, so they've suddenly managed to build that up. But it does show Sengoku's reliance on the Glacial Prison. They're really having to play through the Sejuani as their initial catalyst to start these fights, and it showed there because once they found the kill into Ebby, they didn't really have anything else remaining to continue the fight onwards and find more kills.
It's a rough one as taking some bases in this topside river. Once maybe overstepping here, but should be fine as Jet just going over the wall, saying hello to Steel. And pops straight back. I love that. That's a brilliant ability, very well designed. As starting to see some itemization, breakpoints hit. Honey now got that rapid fire cannon. Mortal Reminder completed for Jet as well. 2 items on these carries is pretty scary.
Yeah, the Zeal secondary comes in quite often in Yone when you're able to hit targets, and specifically in side lane, he's going to be spending a lot of time against Kale, so I'm assuming he wants to get that lethal tempo procced as quickly as possible and find these jewels if he can, because this is going to grant a lot of space for his team. As soon as Kale starts grouping with the team, it becomes very difficult for you to pick up these individual members with tools like the Glacial Prison, as he's looking for the kill in topside.
Divine Judgment used and keeps Ebby alive. Could secure the Gromp as well. Has been farming up a storm on this Kale, 208. Actually, Yaharong also doing well. Farm numbers pretty happy across the board for a lot of these carries. Jet once again stood pretty far up in the top side. No TP available for any other members of Sengoku.
Keep your eyes on the boss side throughout this. So not only are Sengoku now getting a lot of space from this mid lane to get this shove in, even without them having picked up this mid lane turret yet, they also get space on the Drake, but now Jet's looking for the fight on top side, and I don't know if he's able to take this.
Yeah, still 3 levels down, but I think with Yaharong just in the lane, offering a bit of moral support, if nothing else, to the Viego. Top lane tower is going to be falling down. All of the outer towers on the map taken, bar that mid lane for DFM, which is really keeping strong in that mid side, keeping a lot of pressure secured for our million-time champions.
And that staggered play from DFM with a rotated Yaharong late into topside after Ebby had to fall back was really smart, because they have Harp and Utapon, these wave clear carries that don't get threatened underneath this turret. Obviously, that was an exchange for this Drake control for all the vision that they give, so Sengoku are happy to pick up this Drake, but as mentioned, it's a Cloud Soul. That it's not this teamfight turnaround option that you see from the Hex tech, from the Infernal, they'd be able to slot it in. So I think TFM have managed to roll the dice quite well this game.
It is intriguing that they have let that one go, but obviously not valuing the Cloud Drake as much. You could definitely make the argument there, and it's been a quiet game from both of these teams. We've had moments, we've had explosive patches of play, but for the most part, it has just been a lot of farming. Interesting to see a Hex Drinker being built onto Honey here. Obviously, pretty scared of the double AP solo lanes that DFM have got.
Yeah, I mean, Ebby as well, also optimizing towards that EP build, so a lot of magic damage coming up from DFM, and that's why we see key itemization like this Void Staff second coming for Yaharong. There's been a lot of conversation over Demonic Embrace recently, and by and large, the numbers seem to hold up better for Void Staff second, so we're happy to see that slotted in. Combine that with it means he can properly curve quite easily into potentially a Rabadon stud if he was looking towards just raw damage.
And I'm intrigued by what Sengoku are doing here, because 5 members in the mid lane, Glacial Prison just going wide onto Utapon, but still able to fire out a fair few rockets into this mid lane tower. DFM may fancy this fight. Ebby, level 14, pretty strong on this Kale, but that mid lane tower still standing is really hurting Sengoku.
Yeah, and once again, we have to consider the scaling options between these teams, because there's that ticking timer there. Just like the Castin, Kale level 16 is very threatening towards any kind of composition, and whilst Jinx and Yone, as mentioned, very high scaling champions, they have this Sejuani to play through as well. Senna, Kale, this potential late game scaling that will hit after 35 minutes is so scary to deal with, and we're seeing it start to show its head a little bit here as DFM are starting to play more aggressive. This group up really big from them to try and pick up this mid lane tier 2 turret.
Jet is split pushing though, just backing away as DFM momentarily drop out of vision steal. Looking for a play onto NT though. Damage traded pretty heavily into that time pitch, but Evie has been kind of locked up at the front of this fight, able to flash away from the Cyclone, and Sengoku can't quite catch the Kale.
This is back and forth of fighting, as mentioned. You have to be really cautious to who you blow your ultimates on, because they want to look for the Kale first. They want to look for this Victor if they can. Those are the only 2 targets they need to be blowing their options on, because they are limited in that. They have to combo with each other. The Sejuani has to lead into the base field, or Jet will not be able to find damage in a fight.
Well, we really just saw that there. Not enough damage for Sengoku, and you have to feel that DFM, as this game gets later, and as they can get more souls on this Senna, more stacks on this Victor. That was kind of rude, Steal.
That was a naughty steal. Yeah, and I think you've hit the nail on the head. Is that
I'm sorry for just leaving you there, man.
No, it's great. No, I really appreciate it. Thank you. Just lead me astray. No, you hit the nail on the head. We're going to be keeping very firm eyes on Sengoku and how they start to navigate these fights, because suddenly DFM, they're taking the aggressive stance. So, yeah, Glacial Prison, Paz specifically, one of these players who we said maybe actually might suffer a little bit into Ebby. Ebby, one of the, maybe the strongest individual member in the LJL. That's how I felt in Spring Split. And on this Kale as well, a looming threat coming into mid game.
Sengoku once again trying to push mid lane, but once again DFM forcing them back. CC onto Paz isn't going to stick too hard, as it's a beautiful usage of the clone, but Honey is still being chased down. No one falling on Sengoku yet, and the Jinx is just a little bit out of reach for the Aego. Overstep from Still Punish, as here comes Jet! In dives NT with the Abyssal Voyagers. Ebby has no flash to get out of this fight. The Divine Judgment comes through, but you are guilty of trying to step to Sengoku. They're going to turn towards the Baron as DFM actually continuing to pump out the damage due to Pon. With the Kraken Slayer is thinking about it, 30% HP on everyone on Sengoku. They can't take the objective.
And this is the power of the DFM comp, with that 3 carry comp still alive. It's so hard to look for any objectives after a fight, especially a messy fight that was shown there, as Victor lasers, Karma, Senna's range all comes into fruition to stop them from being able to continue for any objectives. And we can see this fight here, and look at the tunneling on Honey. I think was really DFM's downfall here, as they continually thought, that's the one target we need to kill. That's going to catalyze the fight. And this means that here, blown up completely, didn't respect the amount of damage Honey could turn around, and then from that point on, DFM were playing in deficit.
Yeah, it's disconnected is not a word that I would usually use to describe DFM, but I think is absolutely applicable for that fight. We've got a little bit of action on our screens, as once is going to be starting up this Drake. Soul for Sengoku, and look at the lane assignments from DFM. Yaharong in Narnia, Ebby maybe not quite in Narnia, maybe just in the wardrobe, still not able to get over to that Drake, and that's a soul point for Sengoku, uncontested.
Yeah, I'm really interested to see how this uncontested soul plays out for Sengoku, because Yeah, I'm not the biggest fan of Cloud Soul. I feel like, especially compared to the power levels of some of the other Drakes, Mountain Drake as well has risen up quite a lot in power after the durability patch. It seems like any other Drake is preferable to Cloud Drake in the majority of situations. So we're going to be looking at specifically how Sengoku can apply it to their fights, how best they can, I mean, the only synergy that I'm thinking of that could really benefit is NT having access to all that move speed on the usage of his ulti is going to benefit Honey so much in surviving some of these longer fights.
It is a bit abstract. I would just say I think the Cyclone is a big one. I think that you see so many fights where the Wukong just doesn't quite get onto the ADK with that big AoE knockup, and a little bit of move speed is going to be excellent in that regard. Ladies, gentlemen, everyone else, we are 30 minutes into the game, and DFM do not have a single kill on the board, but nonetheless, they are in a gold advantage, and they are standing up to Sengoku.
Yeah, it feels like even without them finding a single kill, this is to their game plan, so it be, as they've looked for a couple. They looked for Honey in the last fight and they failed to find that. So, but other than that, they haven't really been too bloodthirsty. They've been using their pressure to force Sengoku into giving up key objectives like this mid lane tier 1, which has remained standing 30 minutes into the game. DFM still have a hold of their top lane, mid lane tier 1, and that frustration is starting to show now as Sengoku are looking for this Baron. They're nuking it very low.
Yeah, DFM are going to be forced to fight for this one. Ebby doesn't have the TP, so he's going to be late to join this fight. Wukong secure that once with the play, but Jet going into the backline doesn't quite find the ultimate. Immortal Shieldbow keeps him alive. And there's no reset for Steel. The Yone is forced to flash away, but DFM are still on the chase. Railgun throw now, NT. About 400 HP, but can still dash away. Ebby, level 16, coming through on the side. This is where the KL is meant to be powerful, but the Chomp has cut her off. Still, no kills for DFM, and Sengoku claim the Baron.
Yeah, wins and losses for Sengoku there, as Jet's forced to burn that flash after the Baron's taken because they aren't able to find these kills. And this means that we're seeing how this DFM comp is coming into the finale of its play. Even through the Baron being taken, either through Sengoku forcing DFM into quite an offensive stance, they were unable to find a single kill and actually ended up having to run away from DFM's comp, even with the Baron enabled. So I'm interested now because Sengoku have 2 minutes to play with this Baron. How are they going to be able to seize these turrets with that looming threat of this triple carry comp, this triple scaling carry comp coming out from DFM?
What a weird game we've got on our hands.
Yeah.
We've got DFM no kills at 30 minutes. Sengoku with as many late game objectives as they could get at this point in the game, and Honey sat on a full more of the Malmortius, absolutely terrified of this Kale and this Victor. Steel potentially overstepping here, but Paz doesn't quite find him, throwing the Glacial Prison the wrong way. The Jaeger can go over the wall, and once again, no one dies.
Yeah, I don't know how to feel about this more Mortius coming out from Honey. Now, magic damage definitely very heavy on DFM. Is just going to look for the fight, but he's getting absolutely shredded by Ebby and has to just walk away.
So much damage on the Kale at this point in the game. Not even 3 completed items, but still an absolute terror in the side lane and in the team fights as well. Once just not quite finding the engage onto Ebby. Bot lane tower going to be taken out, though. This is good for Sengoku. They're at least extending their Baron play, getting some more gold with it. I need to see some more sieging from them, though. We may have that in the mid lane as Paz taking about half HP on the Sidrani. Still a pretty tanky customer, though.
And yeah, they unlock one tier 2, but it seems like they're still having to play so cautiously. Honey's very caught out here. I don't know if DFM had the damage to pick him off, though, so he just gets to walk out for free. An itemization here. This more of Mortius is hurting Honey's DPS so much. Now it gives them a lot of safety into this complement. That's maybe where they want to be playing towards. They want to keep him alive for as long as possible so that he can pump out more damage in return. But this puts Sengoku playing on a very strict timer now. They have to get an IE on this Jinx, so they really want her to be the primary carry for this comp within the late game, and that's 2,000 gold away.
It's going to be rough. Not sure the exact gold values, but that pickaxe will go into an Infinity Edge at some point. Elder in a minute and a half's time. DFM, you're going to get some kills around this one either way. Either you're getting kills or you're getting killed. We are going to have a fight at this objective, and it's probably going to decide the game.
Yeah, I feel like we've once again, we've entered into LCK territory. We're in the position now where we're looking for a single fight to immediately deal into the game-ending kind of play. That gives us the opportunity to talk about, hey, look at this. Yaharong, level 17 on this Victor. 3 items completed. Ebby, level 16. Kale is fully activated at this point. On top of that, Last Whisper possibly being able to be converted into that final penetration item. Onto you to pawn as Paz been playing deficit, and we look at Honey, and maybe once they get in this fight, they could look for it. Drake in under a minute.
So close at this point of the game. This game is so important. DFM went 19-2 last split, and if Sengoku hope to match them in the regular split, every game matters. Jet going in, going out. Glacial Prison used, but there isn't quite the follow-up source, Sengoku. DFM may look to turn it around. The gravity field buying time as Steel. Not quite finding the Spectrum onto Honey, who is returning with rocket damage. Elder Drake now on the table. DFM stuck in the mid lane. Sengoku in the river. Damage still being thrown down. Reset is going to come out from Paz. He's got the TP. He's fine. He can rejoin this fight. Still looking for it, though.
Ooh.
So tense. Jet going into the back line. Look, Beautiful doesn't fight it with the ultimate. The Yone is out of the fight, but look at Yaharong's HP bar. It is non-existent. Honey raining down with rockets as NT secures the knock-up. And Emmy dead! Sengoku with the first kill of the fight. Harp is going to be falling low too, going to be falling down. That may have just put the nail in DFM's coffin. Elder Drake now the focus.
Yaharong still has TP though. He can influence this fight once again, but it's getting shredded so quickly. I don't think there's any way for DFM to contest this. There's Elder now as well. We just ticked another late game objective off from Sengoku's cheat sheet. Now we're going to see what they can do with it, because this Baron was so limited, but the pure fighting power of this Elder may change things significantly.
And look at the top left of your screen. We're going to see that in a bit. This replay, this fight was massive for Sengoku.
Yeah, and Honey not pumping out huge amounts of damage, but also look how offensive he's able to play. Combine that with Jet, even with this flub, pulling out so much pressure, and that in turn puts Yaharong in such a tricky spot, completely taking up the fight. Steel as well. So DFM are playing the remainder of this fight 3v5, and look at the Paz honestly doing such a fantastic job of being that frontline threat, pushing forward to ensure that Honey can safely click again and again in combination with this build. Really benefits him, and now he's on the IE as well. This is a huge spike for this Jinx, and probably a big turnaround point, as we've seen actually a different build come up from Jet as well. Also very smart. This MR item 4th come out, which will really benefit against, once again, a very magic damage heavy comp from DFM.
Yeah, he would have gone down in that last fight if it hadn't been for the extra resistances, that extra HP, and Sengoku utilizing this Elder buff to secure position around the Baron and to get another objective. They have got double, triple late game buffs for the next minute. They have to get something off this, otherwise DFM can keep scaling. Jet diving under the tower onto Steel, the Glacial Prison used as well, but it's only 70% HP on the DFM jungler, and those are 2 big tools used.
The siege continues now, and Sengoku are just absolutely shredding out these turrets. That's the first inhib gone. I'm cautious about this though, as Sengoku, if they continue to pressure out this base, very vulnerable to some of the really long range damage threats that can poke out this Karma as well as this Victor, who can really hold onto these waves. It looks like Ebby's forced to TP in to stop this potential game ending play. We're going to see how this fight starts.
This is it. Honey with the rockets. Ebby needs to be the carry for DFM. Needs to secure their first kill of this game if they are going to be able to stand up. Nexus Tower number 1 goes down. The minions pushing into the wave with the Baron buff up. Ebby trying to clear them with the waves of damage, but it may not be enough. Initial engage coming through onto Steel, who's taken low, and Ebby using the Divine Judgment so early on the side. First kill, second kill, Sengoku with the Elder Drake execution! Cut off the head of DFM, take out the Nexus, and secure their first win of summer.
We talked about the scaling options from DFM, but we didn't talk about the comp itself and the amount of magic damage completely, and I think it showed there. Eventually,